Hey, how you doing? I'm back with another review. This time it's for another movie that is not in theaters. In fact, this movie is not even on Netflix, so the only way to watch it right now, as far as I know, is on Vimeo, or Vimeo, however you say that, and or you could buy the DVD, which is what I did. Well, yeah, you could say I bought the DVD. I received Jesus Bro in the mail today, a film that I've been waiting a while for. A film, the production of which I sort of, followed as it proceeded. What's different about this movie is that this is a project of Brad Jones. He's a dude who does a bunch of, online videos. He reviews stuff. You may know him as the Cinema Snob, where he reviews, like, exploitation movies and a lot of religious films lately. So I'm a fan of his. There's a Cinema Snob poster back there. And so when he announced he was like crowdfunding this film, Jesus Bro, I was excited because one of Brad's online series is a series called Midnight Screenings, in which he'll go and see a movie, then come out of it and sit in his car and talk about it with a friend. And they see a lot of these Pure Flix movies, okay? You know, these religious movies that have been coming out a lot lately. God's Not Dead, War Room. Anyway, during some midnight screenings, like 2 or 3 years ago, Brad said something like, we should make a Christian movie. And I thought, yes, do it. And then, like, a year or so ago, they announced Jesus Bro, which is a takeoff of all these religious movies, right? I wouldn't necessarily say it's a parody. This is... It's a spin on all those films. It's sort of like a Pure Flix movie, but a really ridiculous one. And what's interesting is, it's not even, like, insulting to religion. And I think that's a really good thing. This is a pretty even-handed film. And it deals a lot with, the conflict between people who have faith and those who do not, And the main character is a dude named Rick. What was his last name? Oh, Rick Whitehead was his name. Played by David Goebbels, or Gobbles. I hope it's Gobbles. But anyway, Dave, the star of this film, is a friend of Brad Jones. He's in a bunch of Midnight Screenings videos. In fact, the whole Midnight Screenings crew appears in this film. In fact, a lot of internet reviewers appear in this film. If you're a fan of Channel Awesome, you'll see a bunch of those people, both present and former Channel Awesome people, pop up in this movie. Like Alison Pregler, or Obscurus Lupa, who I've actually been a fan of longer than I've been a fan of Brad Jones. She's in this movie. She plays the Rickhead's girlfriend. Anyway, and all of Team Snob shows up in this movie. Brian shows up. Ryan, who is also the director of this film, Ryan Michelli, I think is how you say his name. Ryan pops up in the movie. Doug Walker, otherwise known as the Nostalgia Critic, is in this, along with his brother, Rob Walker. Also, a couple people from, the Nostalgia Critic crew, Malcolm Ray and Tamara Chambers pop up. You got Nash is in this. So a bunch of internet reviewers show up in this film. What it is about is, it's a comedy, and it's about a guy named Rick, or the Rickhead. He posts videos on YouTube, and he's an internet atheist, and he posts a bunch of, like, rant videos on YouTube attacking religion. And, he's presented in a really comedic way because he's very extreme, okay? This guy is over the top, and very aggressive, and very douchey. He's, like, the douchiest of the douchey atheists you might run into out there. Like, he's worse than Bill Maher. So, he's this guy who posts these rants online about religion, and he's a big atheist, and he constantly whines about Christians and attacks people with religion and all that. One day, he has a near-death experience. He meets Jesus, or Santa Christ, played by Rob Walker, and he comes out of it deciding, he's got to spread the word of the gospel. And now he's a big, like, born-again Christian, and that just alienates people, because he's being a douche about being a Christian just as much as he was about being an atheist, So yeah, now, okay, I'm not going to totally, in fact, I'm going to try not to spoil this film. Normally when I talk about movies, I'll just come right out and say it like, everybody dies and the butler did it. I'm not going to do it for this movie because, I think you should see it if you have an interest. So there's that, and also I feel like totally spoiling it would be a little disrespectful to the filmmakers who I like. Apparently I don't care about being disrespectful to other filmmakers, but yeah, so don't worry, I'm not going to ruin this movie for you. So, you know, as mentioned, this movie is very even-handed. You know, it actually shows respect, I think, for both sides, and in fact, by the end of the movie, we get a sort of happy medium solution to the situation. One of the things that surprised me about Jesus Bro was how wacky it is. It's actually, you know, it's a comedy through and through, but there's a lot of silly jokes throughout this movie, but I liked them. You know, I've seen enough midnight screenings videos with Brad pointing out different things about films he didn't like, and they actually make fun of some of that stuff in Jesus Bro. For example, Alison Pregler's character, Rick's girlfriend, she has a little character trait where she constantly, at least in the beginning of the film, speaks in exposition, you know? Because a common thing that you'll see in a lot of these Christian movies, these pure flicks films, is like really ham-fisted exposition, you know? Somebody will be like, we've been dating for 6 months and 3 weeks, you know? In fact, she says something like that very, very similar to Rick a bunch of times. So, you know, there's a joke about how her character is always giving a bunch of exposition and it's kind of awkward, but they mention it, you know? Yeah, so if you've ever seen any of these Pure Flix films, you may appreciate this movie, even if you like those Pure Flix films. I mean, if you've got a sense of humor and you're a reasonable person, because this is like lampooning them somewhat, but not like in a mean way, you know? I've only seen 3 of those religious movies. I mean, I've seen all of Brad's reviews of them, so I have a sense of what they're like, but the only 3 I've actually seen were God's Not Dead, The Identical, and Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. But, you know, like, they cover those movies, or they at least mention them. There's a war room scene in this film. I don't know if they really get into, what's the other one? Old Fashioned, you know. But a lot of these movies are mentioned, and in fact, you know, there's one scene in this film that directly lampoons Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas, and it's very funny. Because the way that the dialogue is put together in this movie, you know, people will say ridiculous, absurd things, but it's played very straight. So there's a scene where Rick is sitting, like, you know, out on a porch with his best friend, played by Fard Muhammad, who is very funny in this movie. And for no reason, Rick is like, let's talk behind our coffee mugs. And so they're holding these coffee mugs in front of their faces, having a conversation. That's a direct lampoon of something that happened in Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. And it was just very, I laughed out loud when Rick said that. And Dave is really funny in the movie. He's really good. The guy is good at playing a jerk, because Rick is a selfish jerk throughout the film. Even when he becomes religious, he's still just a selfish guy. To the point where, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But, alright. So he has this near-death experience where he, like, drinks some beer that's made out of holy water and it knocks him unconscious. And, so he meets Santa Christ, or just Jesus. And Jesus tells him, like, I need you to convert all of your internet followers to Christianity because the number of conversions we've been having is way down. And, you know, he convinces Rick, basically. So Rick comes out of it, and he's a hardcore Christian now. And, like, he finally reads the Bible. First he decides that he's embracing Christianity. Then he decides to read the Bible. And he loves it. And, you know, so he starts trying to proselytize via his YouTube channel, which of course is watched by a bunch of atheists, right? So it doesn't work out well at first. All of his fans hate the newly converted Christian Rick, and there's a sequence in the film where we get a bunch of, like, angry internet reaction videos to Rick's, like, conversion video, you know? That's where the director Ryan Michelli pops up. And anyway, so his efforts to convert people are not working, and in fact it's just making him more unpopular. So he starts to wonder, how can I force people to accept Jesus? And I won't say what happens, but what he does to force people is, like, disastrous. But it's funny because Rick doesn't even necessarily care. He's so selfish. He doesn't care what he's doing as long as he's getting people to accept his viewpoint, you know? And it gets out of hand to a point where, like, Jesus has to call him back and try and undo some of the damage. I'm not going to spoil any of what happens there. It's very funny. Yeah, in fact, there's a funny scene in this film where Jesus is like hiding behind Rick, trying to get Rick to take the fall for everything that's happened. Like, you get that joke, right? There's clever jokes like that throughout this, and I really appreciated it, because honestly, when I saw the first trailer for this film, I actually was kind of unsure about it. Like, Brad Jones has made a bunch of movies in the past, and I've liked all of them, you know. But this one, he actually did like a crowdfunding effort for, you know. They raised like 50 grand to make this film. So I was like, okay, let's see what happens when we get, you know, kind of a professional quality movie out of him. And when I saw the trailer, the Santa Christ stuff, and a couple of the scenes they put in the trailer had me a little nervous. No, when I actually saw the final product today, it was all very well done and funny and well put together throughout. And I liked how it all wrapped up in a very nice way, after things just get absurd, you know, because this is an absurd film throughout, and I'm not going to ruin, you know, all the jokes for you. I'm gonna try not to ruin any more jokes for you. But yeah, like I said, if you enjoy Pure Flix movies, but you have a sense of humor, you may like Jesus Bro, because it shows respect to both perspectives. And if, well, if you're an atheist who hates Pure Flix films, you should enjoy this movie as well, because it's so even-handed and it pokes fun at all sides pretty adequately. And again, it has a nice, happy medium ending. I thought the cast was good. Again, Dave was a really good lead. Brad is in the film. He plays Dave's estranged brother, who is a former, like, frat house party dude who is now, like, a Reformed Christian, and he has a war room in his house. If you've ever seen War Room, you'd know what that is. I haven't seen it either, but I've seen reviews of it. So there's a scene where Rick creates a war room in his house where he starts praying. It's funny. I won't go into it. So yeah, Brad's in the film. You know, that's fun. Of course, all the midnight screenings crew. Brian shows up. Sarah shows up. I won't spoil that. You know, and yeah. So if you're a fan of all these internet personalities, you may want to spend $5 or whatever it costs to watch Jesus Bro, the movie. I think it's like $5 to watch on demand on Vimeo or Vimeo. However you say that, I don't know. Let's find out how much it costs. If you backed the movie at like the $30 level, you got the DVD. You can also buy the DVD, but I wouldn't just buy a DVD without seeing the film first. But honestly, you know, if $5 isn't a lot of money to you, if it's not going to break the bank, and you're curious, what is it, only $4 to watch this? Oh, you can rent it for $4. There you go. Go to Vimeo and spend $4 to watch Jesus Bro. Because it's a lot of fun, and I had a lot of laughs, and it's not too long, and it lampoons all of these, like, Christian films, but not in too biting of a way, right? The movie doesn't get mean at any point. Alison Pregler was good. It was fun to see her in a movie. Who else? You know, Doug and Rob are good. I really loved Fard Muhammad in this. His laugh is very funny. You know, and the character of Rick is just very hilarious because he's such a selfish douche. No matter what position he's occupying, he doesn't care about anybody else. He just wants you to think like him. And well, until the end. So Jesus Bro, if you're a Brad Jones fan, I would definitely recommend it. If you've seen all these Pure Flix movies, or at least some of them, I'd recommend it. If you're just looking for something different, I'd recommend it because, you know, hey, this is an independent film. Why not support an independent movie made by a bunch of guys from Springfield, Illinois for 50 grand? Ed Glazer pops up in this movie, by the way. So Jesus Bro, it's converted me. I recommend it. If you can spare $4, go to Jesus Bro, what was that website? JesusBroTheMovie.com, I think. I don't know. Figure it out, just Google it. And see Jesus Bro. I give it a 4 out of 5. Thanks.